at pagination. Okay, so the pagination is this feature in the builder. So we're going to be on the preview tab, and what we're talking about when you have a builder report is the control over the number of pages. And if you can kind of see in this example here, we have 500 entries and we're showing only 10. So it's doing the automated math for you to say how many pages you want to see. So what natively DataTables does is that by default, if you don't set this, it's going to show up on the page, with a true setting, I'm going to be displayed. But it really allows the user to control what this looks like and tell you as a developer, you can set the number of pages to helping you with your load, but with large data sets, you don't have to scroll all the way through like you would on the list. All right, let's look at a little bit further detail. Just like searching, there's a couple ways to control as a developer when you see it. So we talked about this before, where you can add and remove pagination from the DOM. That's the little P tag. And then we also can say, leave the DOM on, but then turn it off for that build or that report by just setting the pagination to false. And then we also can control how the pagination looks, right? So there's I should say some kind of setting that we can call paging type that lets us tell the user or the system what is it that how do we want it to display. And there are 6 options here and they're listed, and we'll go through those in the demo just so you can get an idea of what they look like. All right, now we just talked about where you do those. Again, I just want to refresh your memory. We're in the JS settings control, and we can change take the P out of that thing. So if you never want to have pagination, you can go this route. Otherwise, under this paging, you can turn it on to true or false. So true would show the paging, false would not. And then underneath here, we have a paging type. By default, simple numbers is the out of the box what DataTables will use if you don't set anything. And you can control that, and we'll see that in the demo here. All right, what's new in the demo file? Well, maybe you caught it on the last screen, but I realized as I was preparing for the demo that I actually didn't give you guys control in the previous build on toggling the paging off like I did with searching. And so I thought I'd add that. And then as I was developing the program for you guys, I'm like, well, I should also let the user have control over how the paging appears. And so these 2 features are now in the builder. And I'll just point out to you again, the whole screen here has been modified, and I've kind of redesigned it a little bit to include these 2 new attributes that we're talking about. So to do that, I added 2 new fields to the DataTables builder, and they're labeled here. I modified a calculation, I updated a script, and then I modified this layout. So we'll see those now, but just want to point out if you're using an older demo file and it looks different, this is why. Next up, let's go check out the demo and try it for ourselves. We are in the demo file 2.4 pagination. Let's hit quick start. All right, last time we worked on the searching feature, we talked about how to use it, how to display it. And this time we're going to talk about pagination, which, to remind you, is this part of the display. Does it appear? And when it does appear, where does it appear? And what does it look like? All right, so let's look into that. First, let's go into our settings of the search and let's duplicate the record so we can perform our lesson. All right, let's go actions, duplicate record, and let's rename it, please. We're going to rename it to pagination. Okay, let's say submit and close. All right, we now have this new exact report. But remember, I made some changes in the last, in the slide and told you what we did. So I'm just going to quickly show you those right now. I went into the builder and I added 2 new fields called user option, paging and paging type. And I also updated this calculation to replace the substitution that I use. And there was a script that I updated. So just want you to know, like right now, when we look at the function of this, it's the old method. I don't see what I just added. So I know that. So let's also update the code on this one to get it up to the latest base. All right. So under actions, we're going to hit update code. We're going to say yes. And now I can see that I've added my new code that I put into the script, paging and paging type. Okay, what we're going to do too is we're going to go ahead, and one of the options we want to change is to move the paging to the top, which is something you have to do in the DOM. And the other thing is we're going to make sure that we can toggle the true and false off and show you how that looks. So we're still in the JS function. Let's hit the gear tab. And if you remember last time, the position of the DOM elements was cleared out, and by default, it does what we do. I added this little display up here to say, if you need to remember how to put it back, this is how you can, an example of how to do it, but we can just type in here what we want this report to be. All right, so I think what we're going to do is we'll basically say we want to have the filter and the L and the I and the P at the top. And then we're going to do the T. I'm adding the div tags just to be consistent with what it was before. And then we're going to just put the pagination back on the bottom too. It doesn't hurt. That way, if we're on the bottom, we have both. Okay, so now we've said pagination is going to be at the top and at the bottom. And then we have the other things, but remember we duplicated the record and we didn't have this in the system last time. And so now I'm just going to enter it. So I'm going to put true here for pagination because we do want to see it. And under the paging type, I am going to put the default, which is simple numbers. All right, let's submit and close that and come back and look at our preview. Okay, so we have all of these options up here, maybe not the prettiest thing yet, but we can see them and we can play with this. And if we go to the bottom, we also left it down there. We can tell we're looking at 150 entries and this styling. All right, so now let's just go and turn this off. We're going to go back to our function. And if I didn't include it in the DOM, it would be gone completely. But let's not do it there. We can do that. But under the paging, let's turn it to false. And let's see what this looks like. Submit and close that. And we go back to our preview. The paging's gone here. And let's verify. It is also gone at the bottom. So that will overwrite your DOM if you say false on this report. All right, let's go turn it back on because we want it. All right, let's turn that on to true. And then what we're going to talk about here is the different kind of styling you can do. So let's just take a peek. Simple numbers is our default, and you kind of saw what that was. Let's just do numbers. What do you think that's going to say? So we'll submit and close that, come back to our preview, and all we're seeing is numbers. We're not having the previous or last kind of idea. So you get an idea, what do you want your user just to see? So let's also, let's change this setting right now and move it to 10 records per page. So now you can see that this has changed completely, right? We can see that it's at the top and the bottom, and it's automatically doing the math based on what we're changing on another control in the system. If I said all, it goes just to page one. So think about how you want to interact with this. If you're allowing the user to control some of this, then this is also dependent on that. Let's go back into the JS function and let's change this to full. What does that mean? All right, submit, close, and we look at this first, previous, that. So you kind of have to play with these and just see what do you think it looks better. I'm going to go back one more time and we're going to change it back to we're going to do full with numbers. Let's say that, and we're going to leave it at this for right now. So we have first, previous, next, last, and the pages. Watch what happens when I change these to 10. It grows, and if I go to a different level, you can see how it kind of just automatically changes with you. So that's pagination. You get to play with it a little bit. I am going to leave this report as is, and the next thing we're going to talk about in the next video is actually this setting here, whether or not you show it, and then how you control the elements inside. All right, see you in the next video.